And for the first time ever, I'm actually looking into the camera.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh. Welcome to Lizzie's Bedtime Stories. My storyteller guest is Kate Clinton, who's an amazing humorist and comedian. So I'm excited to have you on.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So, you write stuff, huh?
Yeah. Are they really like listening in their beds?
Oh, totally.
Are they like pajamas and stuff?
So, you know, like Lacey, when she did her interview, she's like, I'm wearing nothing but rouged nipples. I was just like, are you sitting on Saxon's lap?
I have little...
It's like, you never know what's going to pop out of their mouths. It's like the comedians. So
Hey, this is a family show.
No. Cursing is allowed and encouraged.
Good, okay.
So you're going to do a few essay readings for us. Can you tell me a little bit about the first one?
The first one is about B&Bs.
Okay.
My favorites. This is from my years of traveling on the road. Here we go. Are you ready? All right. In Flirting with Disaster, Ben Stiller plays Mel on a cross-country quest to find his biological mother. Early on, Mel describes his loathing for bed and breakfasts. After a series of mini disasters, he, his wife, and small child are forced to spend the night in a funky B&B. The scene with him sneaking down at night to use the off-limits kitchen phone is hilarious, probably funnier because of my complete identification. In my years on the road in the early 1980s, producers would house me in community housing. In one Back to the Woman's Land experience, we were welcomed by our hosts' free-range goats. The darling little Billy somehow managed to get on top of our red van, named Ruby, as in fruit, and stomped in the sunroof. One November in Madison, Wisconsin, producers put us up in the house of a woman who was away on a 3-month trip. She has a waterbed, they told us invitingly. They did not mention where the bed's water heater was, and I am convinced that that night was when the arthritis in my hip started. After a few changes to the writer in my performance contract, I was upgraded to local B&Bs. I never heard the recitation of house rules because the overly pillowed beds were deafening. I could not concentrate on the lovingly told history of the house because I just wanted to get to my room. I am hostile before morning coffee, despite the conviviality of fresh-baked scones. I am hostile before morning coffee, despite the conviviality of fresh-baked scones. At one excruciating breakfast overlooking beautiful Half Moon Bay, as a giant grandfather clock solemnly ticked out the time, the owner and his wife told me the sad story of their gay son's suicide. This is not to disrespect B&B owners. I know and admire many in Provincetown. After a season or two, a couple's early retirement dream of owning a B&B in P-Town hits the reality of the drudgery. Relationships suffer, and they have no time for innkeeper support groups. Instead of breaking up, they sell. Several B&Bs in Provincetown have been converted back to private homes. One owner of a former B&B says he still gets late-night knocks on his front door. The women innkeepers of Provincetown are an admirably resilient lot. In addition to running their businesses, they have sponsored Women's Week, which this October celebrates its 30th anniversary.
I had no idea.
When I'm on the road, I really don't need anything fancy. I'm fine with the anonymity of a new, clean chain hotel, as long as it is not in a food desert, has accessible Wi-Fi, and a workable remote. But like Mel, despite my ironclad anti-B&B rule, I recently stayed in a B&B in Western Mass. I might have to revisit my own rule book. Over an artisanal tea, a woman told me great stories about being raised in a lesbian feminist separatist commune in the late 1970s in Northern California. Her mom was old school and lived the dream of taking down the patriarchy by ignoring it. She'd visited her mom recently and got her talking about those old days. When she asked how she self-identified now, her 76-year-old mother thought about it for a while and answered, nostalgic. This gay pride season finds me a bit nostalgic for the period between 1975 and 85 when women proudly and primarily described themselves as lesbian. I don't want the history of that period to be lost or forced into spring, so I'm in the planning stages for a theme park called Old Lesbridge Village. Lesbians from that time period will be able to look for their roots. Visitors will be able to see what life was like back in the day. I've already built a model prototype of the park with curated dioramas illustrating ingenious feminist governance and infrastructure. When you visit, you can stay in nearby community housing or former covens converted into B&Bs, soon available on Airbnb.
My God, I love bed and breakfast.
Do you really?
Yeah, my partner and I, we not only love them, but we seek out the most luxurious accommodations, mostly because we do not live luxuriously. So half the time, the part that we enjoy most about our travels is where we're staying. Like, my favorite in Provincetown is Carpe Diem Inn.
Oh, yeah.
The Carpe Diem Inn, all the rooms are named after dead poets. And we're in that Henry David Thoreau cottage, which is separate, and it has like a huge 4-poster bed and like a jacuzzi tub that's like could fit like 5 or 6 people, and there was this cute little nook outside with a wrought iron circular table, of course, where you could have your tea or coffee, and I just love that. And it's so funny because I'm so into it, but I can see how it must have been experienced by you. And I love the vignette nature of your writing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Very, very cool.
I'm really trying to do more. I think a lot of times I've been polemic a little bit. There's a tendency toward that. So I'm really trying to make it more personal and do more of a narrative story to get people into the idea. As my publicist says, "Oh, great, you're starting your memoir."
Ow!
Ow! No, I'm not.
So, what do you have up for us next?
Okay, now this one is about sports. Are you okay? You're done with it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But you're a lesbian and you like sports? Even softball?
I played softball, but it was really about the beer in the Broaster Hut after.
Well, rugby, it was like a drinking team with a rugby problem.
Yes!
Well, the best part of rugby, and I thought this is very awesome and good sportsmanship, is you could be beating the crap out of people for 2 40-minute halves, and then afterwards you drink up with them.
Yeah.
You sing bawdy songs, you get hammered, and like the meanest thing you'll say is like, we may have lost, but we're going to drink their beer.
See, I was before Title IX. Catholic school, we didn't have any physical education at all. I missed that whole sport thing.
Yeah,
which is probably why I still have good hips and knees.
Probably. I went to an all-girl Catholic school, and I went to a women's college, and you know what happens then.
Yeah.
You turn lesbian. It's like Smith says, gay in 4 years or your money back.
Lovely. So did you come to Provincetown for like Memorial Day, Baby Dyke weekend? Did you ever come to it?
No.
That's
no.
hilarious.
Oh my God.
They come from, oh my God, I've never seen someone drinking. They have such a great time. So it's just sporty.
Sporty.
Before air travel sported fashionable, multicolored, noise-canceling headphones, flight attendants would offer passengers a tiny handful of plaster-wrapped earbuds and coo sweetly, "You may take them with you," as if they were your new priceless Bose buds. You had to face-plant yourself in your seatmate's lap and plug them into some unreachably intimate place between their knee. Let me see. You had to face-plant yourself in your seatmate's lap and plug them into some unreachably intimate place behind their knee. They never worked. Thus, over years of air travel, I have watched many movies without sound and have had to make up my own storylines. Snakes on a Plane is an allegory about Adam and Eve, right? I live with sporty spice, so I'm also a big fan of sports mutability. While watching Wimbledon, unless I want to share a pova, thanks very much, I'll be here all week, I mute the semi-porn shrieking and groaning during rallies, then unmute for Martina Navratilova's insightful commentary. Though I always found John Madden's Monday night football commentary a helpful sleep aid, I am not allowed to touch the mute button during football games. I've learned to disassociate through the Sunday New York Times crossword puzzle. The NFL Red Zone, which is crack for football fans, is more compulsively seductive for excitement addicts, but I have learned to resist. For a week now, World Cup soccer coverage has been on, mostly muted, in our house. Since we seem to have work to do, we walk by, check the score, watch for a few minutes, then go back to whatever. Next Cup, I want split screens of the amazing footwork so coverage doesn't look like 22 tiny figures swarming back and forth on a pool table. We could get a better TV, too. I love the crowd reaction shots, but perhaps because we had it on mute, or ESPN has, we had not heard the ugly racist and homophobic slurs in what they call the beautiful game. No doubt the omnipresent buzz of vuvuzelas at South Africa's World Cup had drowned it out 4 years ago. Of course I knew of the ugliness. For years there had been drunken hooligans rioting at soccer games. I assumed they weren't fighting over parking. In an Eastern European game, a racist tossed a banana at the feet of Barcelona's Dani Alves. But Alves picked it up, peeled it, and with cool, slow defiance ate it. At the World Cup, Croatian and Russian fans had been reported unfurling neo-Nazi banners. Mexican fans chanted puto during Cameroon and Brazil's kicks on their goal. Puto, a male variant of puta, Spanish for prostitute, translates into fag, man-whore, or coward. The racism and homophobia is not new. The sexism that it implies that it's still okay to yell puta is as old as machismo. What is new is that it is not being muted by Univision or conversation-stifling expressions of, you don't understand our culture, or free expression. The accusation of political correctness is not working. PC always translates as shut up. What is new is that FIFA has an anti-racism task force, and FAIR is an anti-discrimination group monitoring abusive fan behavior at the World Cup. Slowly, the made-up storyline that it's all in good fan fun is changing. Time will tell if FIFA's zero-tolerance stance on racism will also apply to homophobia. Actually changing fan behavior would involve an examination of colonialism and nationalism, and there goes the Adidas, Hyundai, and Coke sponsorships. It also involves pumping up the volume in a full-throated condemnation of the dislocation of poor people for stadium construction, the exploitation of workers, the suppressions of protest, and the graft and corruption in hosting huge sporting events. Did someone just yell Putin?
That, my friends, is a punchline.
Thank you. See, I can't stop it, can I?
No, you can't. Alrighty.
All right.
So, I heard you're going to read me another essay.
You want another one?
Yeah.
Can you handle it?
Yeah.
No jammies? Alrighty, sleepy,
Oh,
sleepy.
You're getting very sleepy. Put that metronome away.
This one's called Shit Fitbit. Once when I was looking at my dear gal pal's collection of carved turtles, I opined, I wish I collected something. She acidly suggested I check in my glasses drawer. Emphasis on drawer. I do have a lot of glasses. If I could fit all my old frames into one of those cardboard collection boxes in the back of churches, and they actually did send them to Africa as promised, I probably could improve the vision of an entire village. This summer, my goal had been to upgrade all my glasses. This summer, my goal had been to upgrade all my glasses. Not so that they have all my current vision prescription, I can't afford that. I wanted to retrofit all of them with a Fitbit knockoff I developed.
Mm-hmm.
Our household was recently Fitbitten by a summer visitor who stayed in the bedroom above us. For 2 nights, after everyone had turned in and had finished the corny but cute chorus of "Good night, John girl, good night, Katie boy," we heard a sound like the pattering of feet, if feet can patter in one place. It's an old house, but it didn't sound like spirits. It was a regular metronomic sound, which you had just done. It was a regular metronomic sound and lulled us to sleep.
Over coffee the morning after the second night, I finally remembered to ask our guest if she had heard the sound. She admitted she was running in place by the bed to reach her daily goal of 10,000 steps on her Fitbit. She also admitted that once in a business meeting, as she leaned back into her chair, she felt a sharp pain in her groin and realized that her Fitbit had unclipped from her waistband and gone rogue. The original Fitbit uses a sophisticated 3-axis accelerometer, unlike the old school single-axis pedometer. Easy for me to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When attached to the body, the device measures movement that is The original Fitbit uses a sophisticated 3-axis accelerometer, unlike the old school single-axis pedometer. When attached to the body, the device measures movement that is turned into digital info. A finely tuned algorithm reads the data through a personally preset threshold for motion and tells you how many steps you have taken that day. That was some science writing right there.
Oh my god.
Are you okay?
I was thinking physics, and I was like, SOHCAHTOA. That's like sine, cosine, tangent.
I have not heard of that in a long time. With my crack team of engineers, emphasis on crack, with my crack team of engineers, we developed a multi-axis gyroscopic accelerometer and tweaked the Fitbit a bit to detect and record sudden jerking motions of the head. We then installed the prototype in one of my old glasses frames. A sophisticated algorithm reads the number of times during the day my head is whiplashed around by daily data input and calculates just how crazy the world has become. I know the danger of using oneself as a test case. I was raised on Marie Curie. I thought I had preset my personal threshold for double-taking incredulity at appropriately high levels. But after just 2 days of data dumps from the Mideast, Syria, the Ukraine, Nigeria, our southern borders, our buffered Supreme Court, and the coming Christian Caliphate, I am now wearing a neck collar and I have a call into my chiropractor. That's some fine writing right there. How do I do it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Packed.
Oh my god.
It's packed.
I almost cried.
I had a little tear in my eye.
Yeah. Yeah, you got me, Steve.
You did.
Do you have anything else for us?
I have one more if you can handle it. I don't know the title of this one yet.
Okay. You can call it.
Are you getting drowsy, people? All right. I know I am. But there's no air conditioning in the room. There's hardly any air.
I know. It's stale. It is. I like to torture my guests.
Or 311. Thank you, Mr. Bluebird. In the spring of 1958, my father was transferred by his company to a nearby town in upstate New York. I was in 5th grade. There were only 2 months left to the school year, so my mother sweet-talked the portly pastor, Monsignor Canfield, into enrolling my brother and me on a trial basis into the local overcrowded Catholic school. The average class size at St. Charles Borromeo was 40-plus kids, but we were used to 60 at our previous Catholic school. During recess on my first day in the new school, I was standing in a raw, cold, windy playground talking to some of the girls in my class. Suddenly, a gray, gritty, sopping wet rag hit me and my brand new maroon-clad, box-pleated uniform skirt. I turned and saw Ronnie Manali, the scrawny little tough guy the girls had just been warning me about. He was pointing and laughing at me. This was before Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, dears, there was such a time. So perhaps Ronnie was unaware that I had 3 brothers. In seconds, I had him pinned down in a puddle, my hand on his throat. I was punching the living crap out of him, as we kids used to call it at home, out of earshot of my mother. Since Ronnie hadn't started crying, I kept punching. Suddenly, a dark, shadowy penumbra loomed over us. I stopped, fist frozen mid-air by, "What is going on here?" It was Monsignor Canfield. He brought me to the principal's office. As I stood in front of Mother Ursula's green metal desk, under the cross, with a dried palm frond curling on the crossbar, I tried to look contrite. The Monsignor told her that he had found me pummeling Ronnie Manali. He was disappointed in me, for despite his generous accommodation, I had been fighting. I could He could not possibly keep me in his school, and told Mother Ursula to call my mother. The deal was off.
Oh my God.
Before I even tried to tell my side of the story, Mother Ursula announced this lovely young girl would never do such a thing. And if she did, Ronnie Manelli probably deserved it. Kathleen, you may return to your class. On a scale of 1 to climb every mountain, it was stunning. I finished out the year and later graduated from St. Charles. It has been years since I was a student or a high school teacher, yet every end of August, with the change of light and the chill in the evening air, I feel an unnatural fondness for knee socks, signaling the beginning of a new school year. And I remember the Mother Ursula story. At a distance of many years, I am now convinced she winked at me as Monsignor Canfield waddled out of her office ahead of me. As this school year begins, may the bullied not be filled with dread. May they not be bullied. May they be blessed with the protection and intervention of an adult ally. May their friends intervene. May they fight back. May the year end well.
Aww. Tugs on some heartstrings, of course.
Mm.
And well, it segues into a different project, which was It Gets Better.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how you rounded it out in that positive way, and that you had a champion. That must have been like the angels sang. And
I was like, whoop, like, what?
Your Fitbit or whatever that's supposed to be would have been.
It's really, it should be cumulative.
Yes.
Email retro, Fitbit.
Retro Fitbit. Yes, what is it, like a Dr. Seuss moment?
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're
It's
welcome.
been great to have you. Hi, folks. It's been great to have you on my show. Just the two of us.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
We're
Have
going
fun.
swimming now. Maybe go on the whale watch.
Yeah. Do
Good time.
P-Town like things.
Yeah. Spiritus Pizza. See you there.
So thank you so much.
You're
It's been
very
great
welcome.
having you
It's a
on.
pleasure.
Yay.
Pleasure. Thank you.